mental health counselor, Reiki healer, and pro-am ballroom dancer, bringing all those things together. And I'm doing something today that I've actually never done before, but I just wanted to give it a try. So I wanted to go live and just see what comes to me as I'm speaking to all of you, to see what might be a relevant topic or what might somebody want to hear. And when you have a spiritual side to you, which I do, sometimes we get, you could call it feelings or claircognizance, just a knowing, a feeling of what somebody may need to hear on this video. So I have nothing planned, and I thought I'd just go for it. And of course I have a backup topic just in case. But for some reason, I'm getting a feeling to talk about mothers. I don't know why, but this is the feeling that I'm getting. So I'm going to talk about mothers and the intense relationship that we have with our mothers. And some of us may have mothers that we want to be close to, but we can't be close to them because maybe our mom is a narcissist, or maybe our mom is a borderline, or maybe she's an addict, or maybe she's a combination of all three, or maybe she's not alive. Okay, that's a possibility which we can work with. But sometimes we have these very intense relationships with our parents. Mothers and daughters are known to be some of the most intense in counseling and psychology, and spiritually too, because you were born of this person. And even if you were adopted, you were still, loved and nurtured and cared for since you could first speak and walk by this one particular woman. And there's an archetype of a mom that we all want. And that is the mom who's in the kitchen cooking, making cookies, inviting all your friends over, nurturing you, taking care of your every need, showing up for you, helping you with your homework, and just loving you all the time. That's the sort of unconditional mom archetype that we have. And archetypes are basically, in psychology, they're just symbols for like a summary symbol for what we think of. Like when we think of a father, we think of a mother, we think of a great warrior, or we think of the delicate feminine, right? There's all these ideas that when we say those words, a symbol and a certain archetype, certain type of person comes to mind. Maybe not a particular person, but something comes to mind. So I think when it comes to moms, we all have this archetype idea of what a mom is supposed to look like. And those archetypes come from our ancestors, they come from society, they come from what we see on television and in movies of what moms are supposed to look like. But as many of us know, we don't all get the moms that we want, right? We don't get that archetypal mom. And in fact, we may get the opposite. We may get a mother that is not nurturing or did not meet our needs. And that can lead us down one path when it comes to our relationships. And then sometimes we might have a mother that's great, but she was not emotionally available. Maybe she was there for the practical needs. And with mothers and daughters in particular, and I think sons too, but with mothers and daughters in particular, the relationships becomes very intense because you have one female constantly reflecting on the other to understand who they are. So for example, my mother she was constantly looking at me, I'm sure, although she maybe never said it, to see, okay, does my daughter measure up to who I want to be, how I want to be seen? Does Elizabeth represent what I want my daughter to be in the world? And in my generation, parents were very focused on what other people thought, what the communities thought, society thought. That still goes on, but it was really intense in the 70s and 80s, especially in the Jewish community, which is my background. So it was always, was I measuring up to what my mom had in her mind? And I don't know that I did, right? I was a little bit rebellious. And as I'm developing as a woman, I'm looking at my mother and I'm thinking, okay, my mom's took care of all my practical needs. She was there for me. She took care of me if I was sick, but she wasn't the most emotionally available woman. Later on in her life, we became very close. But growing up, she was not what I would call a tender mom. She loved me, okay, but she wasn't tender. And so her and I were constantly reflecting upon each other for what the other wanted the other one to be, but wasn't. So I think a lot of moms and daughters do that. And I hear it in my therapy sessions all the time as well, where moms will say, well, my daughter isn't very social, and I was social, and I went out and I did this, but my daughter doesn't have any friends. And I might say, well, maybe your daughter's happy that way, right? I mean, we can't say whether having few or lots of friends is good or bad, but it's going to be judged based upon what the mother feels is right or wrong or is used to, right? And society changes, time changes, generations change. So we really don't know that there's a right or wrong way to be in life. I don't think there is, but there's expectations that we have for our daughters, our moms have for us as daughters, and vice versa. So I think the reason this topic came to mind is because we all have a mother. Whether she's in our lives, out of our lives, doesn't matter. We all have one. And this relationship is very sensitive and very particular. And we're constantly reflecting on our parents and the mother specifically to see, was my mom loving? Was she caring? Did she take care of me? Or was my mother crazy? Did she put men before me? Or did she have an addiction problem? I mean, all the things I hear as a therapist. Or was my mother emotionally available? And the mothers are always looking at their children as a reflection of them, saying, okay, did my daughter turn out, or is she turning out to be what I hope she'd be? Is she, popular? Or is she not popular? Is she smart? Whatever it is this mother wants. Beauty is a big thing in feminine relationships, right? Is my daughter beautiful? Am I showing her how to be beautiful? Or, the traits go on and on and on and on. So when you have this very mirroring relationship between mothers and daughters, it gets intense because you've got two people wanting the other one to be exactly the way they want it to be in order to feel worthy, right? So mom might be saying, if my daughter does all these things that I want her to do, if she looks a certain way, if she does a certain way in school, if she has a certain number of friends, then I've done a good job. And it becomes about the mom rather than thinking about, okay, what is it that my daughter really wants and that she really needs, okay? And vice versa, children will grow up and say, was my mother really all that I wanted her to be? And if she wasn't, then we get mad at our moms. And this happens in every mother-daughter relationship. So I've rarely met a mother and daughter in therapy where they just, love each other and everything's great. There's usually this intensity. And I think we get to a certain point in our lives. I always say it's around 30. When I turned 30, I started realizing that my mother was a human being. Because we don't really get that until we get older, we start having our own children. And so I didn't really think of my mom as a human being. I thought of her as like a superpower, right? And many children look at their parents like this. And we don't see them as human until we get older, maybe in our 30s, start having our own children, our own families. And when we start to see this, we start to understand, oh, okay, well, maybe my mom did the best she could. Maybe I wasn't a good enough daughter. Maybe I could have done better. And so these questions and this mirroring goes on throughout lifetimes. And the mother-daughter relationship is intense from birth to death. I really believe this, not only as a therapist, but also as a daughter and as the only daughter. And I've seen this repeat over and over again. So what I'm feeling to ask the audience is, what was your relationship? Well, no, what is your relationship with your mother currently right now? Is it intense? Is it everything you wished it would be? Is it not anything near what you wanted it to be? Did your mother disappoint you? Did she fail you? In what ways did she fail you? And then how does that relationship affect you today? How does that relationship affect who you are today? And further, how you are in your relationships? Because our parents, mom and dad, those are our first relationships in life. That's it. The first relationships we experience are mom and dad, and then siblings. And this is how we learn to have relationships, through the family unit. And it doesn't matter if you were, well, it matters if you were, torn away from your family, or if somebody died in your family, or a sibling passed away, or one of your siblings was sick, or whatever. There's a million different case scenarios in families. What was it? And when I'm speaking to this, it's like a wound that we have. And I'm thinking, I know as I'm doing a lot of work on myself, which I do even as a therapist, I think we have these, I hate the word wounds, but I think we have these, we've had these intense mirroring relationships with our mothers, for better, for worse, or somewhere in the middle. And if we didn't get the love, if we didn't get the attention and the emotional availability we needed from our moms, we tend to internalize that as children and feel that we maybe we're not lovable, or we weren't enough, or we weren't worthy of love. And if we had an abusive mom, verbally, physically, if we had a mom who, if your parents were divorced and mom, went with, put the boyfriends before you or something, all of those things that happen in modern families tend to fall on the child as, I'm not lovable, I'm not valuable, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy. And when we have those messages buried deep in our psyche, deep in our hearts, we carry those out into the world with us, into our friendships, our other family relationships, our relationship with self, and definitely in our romantic relationships. So if we felt in some way that we weren't enough or couldn't please your mother, you may be a people pleaser, because the only way you could ever get the love of your mom or your parents would be to please them in some way, right? If someone tells you you're not doing something good enough, then you're either going to rebel against it and say, well, screw you, but you're still going to feel bad that you didn't make your parents proud. And, I work with people in their 60s and 70s that are still circling these issues, so this is deep stuff. So we have to take a minute today, or whenever it is you fall on this video. And I love people to write things down. I always sit around with a notebook, take notes on life, and ask yourself, what was my relationship like with my mom as a child? What is it like now? I'm assuming you're an adult, maybe not. What do I enjoy about this relationship? What did I not get from mom that I wanted to? How do I feel as the daughter looking at my mother? Do I feel like I was good enough for her? Do I feel like I pleased her? Do I feel like she was proud of me? And start looking into that, because again, these core patterns that we operate on in all of our relationships generally, usually, typically come from mom and dad and siblings. And the one thing I hate to see is for any of us to be carrying around wounds, for lack of a better term, or unresolved stuff through our golden years and through our adult life. Because either we carry that inside and it really impedes our ability to have healthy romantic relationships, because we don't think we just settle. Or sometimes it hurts our ability to raise children the way we would have liked to, because we don't really know what to do. Sometimes it works the opposite, but the biggest issue is I don't like to see people carrying this stuff around as an adult, because these messages and sore spots that we carry around from our parents, they can go away. We can overcome them once we realize that it was never about us. That whatever our mothers felt was lacking in them, they kind of projected onto us. A lot of projection from moms to daughters. A ton, right? So you could probably think about the thing your mother was hardest on you about, and that was probably an insecurity of hers. And it gets put upon you, and that's how these things pass through generations. So just wanted to hop on there and, I'm going to read the comments in a second, but leave this video with the idea and the impression that whatever your relationship was like with your mom, ultimately, whatever you're still carrying around was never about you. It was about what mom felt she was inadequate about. Whatever her inadequacies were or insecurities were, she probably put that on you and tried to get you to fix those so she could feel better. And if you want to watch some really interesting, I love watching certain TV series to get into relationships, because I like to see how families and couples interact in different series. And if you want a really good one with mothers and daughters, The Gilded Age, I love that show, but there's some really strong female characters on that show. And there's an aunt and a niece relationship that's really intense, and there's a mother and daughter relationship, really intense. And I've learned a lot about myself and my own relationship with my mom through watching that show. And I think anyone I'm 50, who's in my age group will feel the same way. Because even though it takes place in the late 1800s, our grandparents were being born around then and had our parents. So it's still familiar. And I think you'll get a lot out of it. But sit around and think about, what am I still carrying? And what did my mom mirror back and forth? My mom and I mirror back and forth in each other. And how can I clear this? How can I clear this or heal this? And a lot of times it's just realizing that, hey, that was never really my problem. That was her problem. And that was her mother's problem, right? It could be extreme fear. It could be lack of value. It could be having trouble feeling worthy of things, deserving good things, settling in life. Look at those patterns, because those core patterns between mom and daughter, especially, mothers and sons are intense too, but that's another talk. Men tend to resolve their mother issues with their wives, but that's another thing. So I'm talking about mom-daughter stuff and how that plays out in your current day relationships and the way that you feel about yourself. That's important. And if you're at a point in life where you'd like to look at this, or you'd like to examine some of these issues, please, you can work with me. You can call me. You can set up an appointment. I'm also starting to do a lot of online classes. My first one is this coming Thursday night on Zoom. It's only $25, and it's called Choosing Yourself. And women, we have a tendency to abandon ourselves. We abandon what we want. We apologize for being alive, and we try to make everybody else happy. And this is just a general thing with women. Not all women, but generally. And a lot of this comes from mom and comes from generations of being women in society. And so I'm really excited to give this class to you guys on Thursday. So I hope you'll join me. The link, if you want to register, is in my bio on Facebook and Instagram, which is all linked through my YouTube. I'm trying to put a link in my YouTube for it today, but $25 Zoom, 7 to 8, and then 8 to 8:15 is a Q&A. So I'd love to have you. And if you have trouble finding the link, you can just message me on YouTube and I will get it to you. And yeah, moms and daughters. So think about it. I hope this was helpful. And let me see if I can read the comments. Okay, these are definitely not nice things. Okay, anyway, that happened. So Anyway, thank you for being here. And the people who came here to say not nice things, I'm sorry for you. I really am. I hope you feel better. Okay. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.